Very good. I'm really excited today to introduce to you Sue Geeland. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did.
Okay. And she works at Metaneo Counseling. After a very painful childhood, Sue has forged her way through a life earning a Master of Counseling degree. Sue and her husband David have learned the skills needed to make their 36 marriage work. They've got to be doing something really well. She's channeled her knowledge into a Loving We program designed to save marriages by rebuilding the foundations. Okay, we're going to learn more about this program in just a minute, but in the meantime, Sue, congratulations for your article published in Authority magazine recently and for having the courage to create your Loving We program.
Thank
You
you.
left home at the age of 15. How in the world have you made it so far when you started out with so little support?
Uh, that that I don't know. I think one of the things, because I sort of came from, sort of major dysfunction, and one of the biggest things um is that I never took the blame, or how if we've come into dysfunction, it's always my fault.
Mm-hmm.
And we then feel guilty as adults and all that sort of stuff when it's not. You're a kid. What the heck do you know?
Mm-hmm.
um at times, in terms of adult stuff that may have sort of happened. And so I've never taken the blame. I've never sort of said it's my fault.
That's so unusual. Most children assume it's, somehow their fault.
Yes. And to tell you the truth, I'm not sure why I thought that, but I'm sort of going, you know what, no.
Good for
you know
you.
it's sort of like, no, that's their stuff. That's definitely not me.
I
For
am,
someone who
gosh,
was
I'm
older and wiser should be protecting me, it's definitely not my fault.
good for you. I'm so glad to hear that. And it's so unusual to hear that kind of report.
so
I did.
so I sort of think that, from there, and not recognizing, or not taking on someone else's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to say, well, I've got to build a life for myself. I've got to, try and find out how to become, and what's a good relationship like.
Yes.
And what's the elements involved, and how do you have a good one, and all this sort of stuff. So that's when I sort of started, I suppose, being curious about other people and their relationships, and what they do, and how they do things, and what would they have wanted to have changed, what's important to them. And I sort of just, almost like a sponge, I was just soaking all this kind of information in. And then when I was 23, that's when I met David. So we're looking 15 to 23, all that
Mm-hmm.
learning. Um, I was doing aged care nursing at the time. I went to a college to do secretarial course, and that's where I met David at college. Um, and we sort of started hitting it off, and I actually gave him an out.
Mm-hmm.
I actually
Uh-huh.
sort of said to him, you know, I'm bringing a whole lot of stuff into this relationship from, sort of from the past and stuff like this that I actually don't know how to fix. Um, I wouldn't want to marry me.
Oh, gosh.
so, so I sort of said, if you're taking me on, it's got to be with wide open eyes, so that you're not blaming me. And listen, for
Yes.
36 years, he has never once blamed me for, sort of the stuff in our marriage that was, you know, the baggage, I suppose, from the past. Um,
You just kind of stumbled onto the right man, didn't you?
I did, I did, which was, which was pretty amazing, actually, to tell you the truth. And so, I just said, okay, well, if you're going to do that, and you're going to sort of, going to take me on as I am, we've got to make this work. I
Mm-hmm.
said, we've really got to make this work because, as I said, I just don't have the emotional energy to
You were
have more
totally
vulnerability.
committed, and that's what you asked of him, was to be totally committed.
Mm. So we ended up, and I think I sort of said in the article, we ended up sort of talking for a good 3 years before and after,
Mm-hmm.
scenarios. What would you do in that situation? Here's what I think I would do in this situation. Now, what are we going to do in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
So we just kind of had fun, just
You did
chatting,
a, it sounds
talking,
like you did a,
exploring.
it sounds like you did a lot of role playing ahead of time.
Very much so, very much so. Huge role playing in terms of, what would we do and how would we do things and what choices could we make different and so forth. And then we kind of lived our lives,
Mm-hmm.
until about, I suppose, yeah. So until about 10 years ago, when someone sort of said, "How do you do it? How do you last for 25 years? We're
Mm-hmm.
struggling after one." And as I started sharing, for someone who doesn't feel too well, kind of got the passion in the belly, and they just said, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is really good stuff. You should write
Mm-hmm.
a course or something." And then,
I visited your website and I absolutely love your emphasis on solution-based counseling.
yes,
Let's not just talk about it, let's resolve it.
yes, that's
And
that's the thing. And it, I sort of feel as if I'm kind of disrupting the counseling industry, because what we do as counselors, what do? We go back to the past. We've got to explore the past. We've got to process what's going on and how do we do things. And I'm going, really?
mhm,
It hurt you the first time. Why would you want to go back and relive it again?
mhm,
Because I found out sort of in my studies that our brains cannot tell the difference between what we imagine and reality.
mhm.
If
Yes.
we've imagined something, then it's real.
Mhm,
So if we have a trauma and we're going back to tell the story of the trauma in order to process it, we're just reliving it with
yes.
all the associated emotions that we've already attached to that past. And we just keep reliving and reliving and reliving. And it's killing us.
I applaud you for upsetting the traditional model of counseling because I've done the same thing. I guess that's why I understand what you're saying and agree wholeheartedly with it. In a nutshell, can you tell us why solutions, well, you just did. You told us why solutions are your emphasis rather than traditional therapy. So let me go on. You listed as a misconception that my partner will complete me. When you married, did David complete you?
He didn't he didn't complete me. It was more that he enhanced what was already there.
Okay.
And I think that is what, that is, I suppose, what, marriages should be about, is that if we sort of say, if we sort of saying, okay, well, partner, you being in my life means I'm complete. So if you're not in my life, I'm no longer complete. And therefore we hold on to them just a little bit and we kind of because
Yes.
we want them to make us feel good. We
Yes.
want them to make us, sort of complete us in some
Mm-hmm.
way. Whereas, I've got this sort of statement that I use in my program, which is, in order to have an amazing we, you must have a strong sense of me.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have that strong sense of me. You've got to be able to sort of say to your partner, do you know what? I don't need you at all. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need you to validate me. I don't need you to praise me. I don't need you to complete me in any way. I'm already complete within my own self. But boy, do I want you,
Mm-hmm.
because you enhance what's already there and you help challenge me to become better, to grow better, to
Mm-hmm.
enrich my life, simply because you're challenging me to become better.
I love what you just said. Just love it. So what work had you done to complete you? either before you met David and probably for the years since then, as you continue to do your own work, how do you complete yourself?
Um, I didn't to say that I didn't do much, sort of, I suppose, work on myself in terms of
Mm-hmm.
that. But one of the things that I did do is that through experiences, so I had dysfunction, and I'm going to be honest, and I hope that's okay for you and your
Of
readers.
course.
Is that, and I'm talking dysfunction, I'm not talking anything that's, I'm talking, my father was basically a pedophile.
Okay.
That's what we're talking about. That's abusive,
Absolutely abusive to
you
the
know,
extreme.
very much so. All right, so that's where I come from. My mum was an authority. She was a very old school authority. Kids should be seen and not heard. But she was a matron of a hospital. So she was working
Mm-hmm.
2 to 10, 6 to 2. Um, she wasn't around to protect us.
Okay.
You know, so that's where I'm sort of, when I'm talking abuse, I'm talking,
Yes.
that's
Severe abuse.
yeah. So it's that, and because I didn't take it on, I can sort of say that it's just a fact. It just happened, and I'm okay with that because that's his stuff, not mine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what happened is that in between 15 and 27, I had 4 significant people die on me.
Okay.
One was my very best friend. Other two was the only boy in my teenage years who wanted me for me.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up dying in a car accident. So my best friend died in a car accident. This boy died in a car accident.
Wow.
My mum, 4 days before my 21st birthday, she was killed in a pedestrian accident.
Wow.
And then my first child,
Oh dear.
my my first child was born, had no head.
Oh,
All right.
sweetheart, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So in that 10 years, I had 4 significant. And it was around that time that I didn't need to process stuff and things like this. It's that time to sort of say, you know what? There is nothing that this world can throw at me
Mm-hmm.
that I can't handle. I feel
Yay.
invincible because I've had all that, and there is nothing left that it can throw at me that I can't handle. And so it was in that point, and whether you've gone, your readers have gone through traumas and stuff like that and realize that you've come out the side, take that on board to sort of say, you got through that.
Mm-hmm.
You so got through that. You can let it go, leave it in the past, leave it where it's supposed to be. All right. And to be able to say, you know what? I've gone through all this stuff. Man, I'm invincible because if the world throws something at me, you know what? I will handle it. So I don't have to live my life in fear or waiting for the next thing to come on, or what I sort of say, the next boulder that comes into my life. I don't have to fear because I'll handle it because I handled all that.
You did not take on the persona of a victim. You refused to be a victim.
Refused, and to
Good.
realize that my strength lay, in the fact that I didn't have to worry. So, I
Mm-hmm.
was able to live my life, I suppose, in joy,
Mm-hmm.
happiness, to realize that, whatever happens, I've got the skills, I've got the resources, the resilience to be able to get through that as well.
I am so impressed and so proud of you. And it's such a unusual outcome for a story like yours. I'm just very happy that you made those choices to move forward with such positivity.
And I
You've
think and I think that in spite of where I've come from, in
mm-hmm.
spite of the baggage.
Yeah. You've been
David and I,
married. You've been
David
married
and
for
I, 36 years.
36 years. Name some of your couple habits that have kept your love alive.
Probably one of the big things, touch. We're always holding hands.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're always, you know, as we times go past in the kitchen or something like this, we give each other a kiss. Touch is a big thing because it's the thing that keeps the spark going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the sort of thing that keeps us connected, that we're connected through touch with another person. It kind of gives us the warm fuzzies.
Yes, it does.
You know, it's a warm fuzzies, and I do, you know, and I do have a theory, okay, and I do have a theory, if I may share with you the theory, is that my husband used to come in and snuggle me, and I'm the hot one in the family, and he's usually the cold one in terms of
Uh-huh.
temperature. So he would come in and sort of snuggle up to me at night because I would always go to bed first, and he would come up and he'll snuggle me. So he's the cold fish, and I'm going, okay, bracing myself here. He would then say, "Oh man," he said, "I always forget how good this feels."
Oh, how sweet.
And that is my theory, and you know, is the fact that I think nature has given us the ability to forget how
Mm-hmm.
good it feels when we hug, we cuddle, we kiss, we make love, we do all this sort of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? We forget how good it feels.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get to a point, you know, in time when dysfunction starts to sort of come into the relationship, that touch then disappears because we are angry, we are annoyed, and so we don't want that. And the fact that we forget how good it feels, we could be going months without, you know, a touch or without a kiss or without something like this, and the connection that you have, the spark
Mm-hmm.
that's within your relationship just starts to disappear because we forget how good it feels.
Yes. Yes.
You know, because you know, David had a word for this because he said if we remembered each and every time, it would become like semantic saturation. It'd be so saturated in our minds and our memories that it become meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we forget is, to me, a miracle, because every time then we do hug and kiss, it feels like the first time.
It's a
Exciting.
gift all over
And it's a
again.
gift. Oh, yeah, that keeps going,
Yeah.
right? But we've got to sometimes be intentional about it, because otherwise, simply because we forget, we just won't do it. And then the connection and that, you know, that warm fuzzies just
Uh-huh.
starts dissipating.
You mentioned in your article that gratitude also plays a big role in your relationship. Tell us about that.
I think one of the things, um, and it was an old girlfriend of David's before me, and she used to always nitpick him all the time, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
I said to her, "Why do you do that?" And she said, "Oh, well, his head won't fit in the door if he goes through." And I'm sort of like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was almost that time that I vowed and declared that I would never do that. It would
Yes.
be with David, with my girls. It would always be to lift them up, not
Yes.
drag them down. And so, you know, so then throughout our, you know, sort of, I suppose, our 36 years, that's what we've done. We've built each other up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my communication, or I didn't value my own opinion. And David never, and remember, I dropped out of school at grade 10, right? So
Okay.
he's down here. He was doing his Bachelor of Education in physics and chemistry. So he's
Hmm.
up here. Language
Uh-huh.
barriers was like, you know, yin and yang here. But in 36 years, I have never heard David say to me, "Sue, that is a dumb, stupid idea. Why would you even think that?" He would
Wow.
also, he would say, I'm hearing what you're saying. But have you thought of this, or have you thought of that? Have you thought of something else? And that grew my ability to think outside the box,
Mm-hmm.
until he came to a point when I was 30 and had two kids, and so said, "You should go back to uni." And I'm going, "What? You 10 dropout, go to uni? 4 degrees later."
Good for you. And good for
Well,
David.
you know, and this is, I suppose, the gratitude is that, the gratitude of, how he enhances my life. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
always, saying to him, David, I really appreciate this is what you do, and I really appreciate, and so grateful that you're in my life. And sometimes I'll just look at him. He says, "What are you looking at?" I said, "I still can't believe that we're married." I'm still sometimes
Oh,
go back into,
yes.
the abuse or something like this, and sort of go, "Are we really?" I got to pinch myself here. Are we really this happy
Mm-hmm.
after 36 years? Because this I don't know. We're either fluked it or must be doing something right.
You were, your husband reminds me of my late husband because he was so supportive of me. He believed in my intelligence and thought I could do anything I wanted to. He's the one that encouraged me to go back to school and get my master's degree.
There you go.
Oh,
It,
I would not
it
be
just
where I am today if it hadn't been for all of his encouragement.
same, same. And that's, guy, you've just nailed it. That's what relationships can do when you're in a
Yes,
good one. Is
yes.
that if we're already complete, you already had the stuff in you.
Mm-hmm.
He believed in you
Right.
to enhance what's already there.
Yes.
He didn't have to change you. He didn't have to, sort of say he's right and you're wrong. He didn't have, he took what was there, and by encouragements and support, he allowed you to grow to become
Mm-hmm.
the amazing you that you are. And that's what relationship does. That's why we get into relationships. That's
And if
why.
if we don't know how to do that, those skills are something we can learn, though.
Yes.
Appreciation, gratitude, lifting each other up, those are skills that people can learn that don't know them automatically.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I said, you sort of said you really liked it, which is my sort of statement, is that relationships is always about an invitation.
Yes.
Always about an invitation. And therefore, oftentimes we get into a relationship where we feel it's our right
Mm-hmm.
to own the other person,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, Simply because you've agreed to marry me, therefore I own you.
And I have the right to
See,
control you.
yes. Whereas if we could change the thinking and change the focus to sort of say, wow, I feel so grateful and so privileged that you, beautiful, amazing you, would choose to share your life with me.
Yes.
And if we have that appreciation, again, we would just love each other a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't take each other for granted. And they would become the most precious person in the world that we would be protecting, devoting, um, bonding with, building up, sharing, and we wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be pushing them down, and we wouldn't be doing all the other things that dysfunctions do. Sometimes it's just that major change in mindset.
What an amazing home you've given your two daughters with you and your husband's relationship as their model for relationship.
Yes, except for I don't know. I don't know whether they would like it because, well, they do now, but before they would sort of go, "Mum and her words of wisdom again."
Of course.
and and I'm
Of course.
and and I'm sort of saying, here's my clients who are sort of like literally, my words and everything like that, and they're soaking it in because they want their relationship, sort of to be well and things like this. And
Yes.
then my kids are sort of saying, "You're just mom." It's like, okay,
Yeah.
it's okay, guys. It's all right. At least you've sort of seen. And fortunately, for them, they both met their partners when one was 17, one was, I think, 19.
Mm-hmm.
They're now in their 30s, and they're
Yes.
still together after 10 odd years now.
Oh,
So that,
that's wonderful.
So they've got long and happy marriages of their own self because and I'm hoping I can take some of the credit.
Yes.
we David and I can take some of the credit in being that amazing model. So you know, as parents and things like this, it's it's it should be your goal to, you know, be the people to show your kids just what an amazing relationship could be. And sometimes we just need help.
I agree
That's what
wholeheartedly.
and you here for.
I'm so happy for you, happy for David, happy for your children. And it's so impressed with the journey of soaking up knowledge that you've been able to put to work in your own relationship. You have, in talking with David, you have a no interruption rule, either a talking stick, a timer, scheduling talk nights. Explain a little bit about this no interruption rule.
Um, usually, usually we're opposites. You know, that's why opposites attract. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the oppositeness that we have is, you know, some person, one of the person in the couple, um, is a get to the point, and the
Mm-hmm.
other person is a meander, and we meander through backstories and all this sort of stuff.
Yes.
And so, oftentimes, for the person who wants to get to the point, can interrupt or override the person who is meandering a bit, you know, by sort of saying, hey, what's the point? Get me to the point. Or I just want the point. What is it? What is all this rubbish? You know, I just want the point. Give me the point. So that we can talk over each other and we're not listening, and we sort of then start to get, you know, emotional, or you know, emotional in terms of, and then one person who's meandering because that's their, that you need to know the backstory in order to get to the
Mm-hmm.
point.
Yes.
um they're now feeling unheard.
Yes.
They're now feeling, um you know, that what they're sort of thinking and feeling, and you know, this, you know, their stories or their interpretation and that sort of stuff is not important. And so sometimes, you know, this is when I just said, sometimes if you need to, you know, get a stick, you know, kind of, okay, I've got the talking stick. If I've got the talking stick, you just listen, you know, if it comes to that. And so that we can then just sort of say, okay, and then we can turn off, you know, we can turn off that voice going,
Mm-hmm.
get to the point, get to the point, get to the point, and just to be able to be present and listen to, you know, so that both of you feel heard. But then the person who's meander, to make it shorter a bit, not long, 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 long. So there's kind of, you
Mm-hmm.
know, David, one of David's my saying, swings and roundabouts, swings and roundabouts.
I think one of our most important needs after food, clothing, shelter is to be heard.
Yes.
It's such a vital need, and it's being able to listen and hear your partner and vice versa keeps the connection
Oh,
close, doesn't it?
it's huge,
It's
right? Because you know what, I suppose going back to that feeling of privilege
yes.
is sort of saying, to the point of, I want to know, you know, I know what I know, but I don't know what you know, even
Mm-hmm.
after 36 years. I don't know what David knows, and he knows a heck of a lot. And so,
Okay.
you know, he could sort of tell stories and stuff like that. And I'm just almost feasting off his every word because he's got so much knowledge, so much information that I'm curious. And
Mm-hmm.
when we're curious about each other, we're not sitting there going, okay, hurry up and finish. You
Yeah.
know, I'm curious. I want to know what you think. I want,
Yeah.
you know, I want to understand where you're coming from. I want to ask you further questions so that we can sort of learn and grow and sort of develop, you know, better, and you know, that type of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that mindset then works through into your communication,
Mm-hmm.
of really valuing your partner as the beautiful human being that they are, and that it's your privilege that they happen to want to share their life with you.
And none of us stay the same. We age, we grow, our needs change. We need to keep up with those changes with each
Yeah,
other.
Yeah, very much so, because we sort of grow as an individual, and if you don't communicate and you miss growing together, you start to grow apart, and then
Mm-hmm.
then it becomes, well, I don't know you anymore,
Mm-hmm.
because we're not curious enough
Yes.
to have those conversations.
Such a great point, Sue. I just love everything you're saying. I'm hoping those who are watching the video will go to Authority Magazine and read your entire article because you had so many great tips in it. And if you happen to live in Australia or Sydney and want to contact Sue, the name of her website is Metanao, metanao.com.au. So thank you for your patience in getting our setup going today. Took us a few minutes, but we figured it out. And it was such a delight to meet you. I hope we meet in person at some point in time.
Yeah, if I come to America to um yeah, because I'd love to take my program over there to help you guys out.
Okay. We can use all the help we can get.
So if people even in America, Canada, and so forth, I lived in Canada for 5 years.
Uh-huh.
I lived in Edmonton. Um, so if you want to reach out, there's always Zoom.
Uh-huh.
And let's sort of see if we can get your relationships, back on track. Not just to where you are, but where the heck you want to take it, because the
Where you
sky's
can
the
take
limit.
it.
Wherever
That's
you
your
want to take
passion, isn't it?
it, very much so.
That's your passion. Such a delight to meet you. Thank you for the time you gave me today. And this video will be linked to your written article on Authority Magazine.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.